Yay, we're live.
Yay. It says live.
We are. Hi, everyone. Very happy to welcome our special guest today. Do you want to start us off with an intro to you and your books?
Yes. Hello, everybody. Thanks, Caroline, for having me back again. It's been a couple of years. And my name is Valerie. I write as Valerie Keogh, but some of you will know me as Valerie Dickinson. Some other people might know me as Valerie Foley, which is my maiden name. So sometimes I don't know who I am. Anyway, I started writing about 15 years ago. Initially, I self-published crime books, and I had 9 books published, self-published, before I got my first publishing contract in 2018 with Booktour. I'm now with Boldwood Books, and I write psychological thrillers. I signed a new contract with them earlier this year that will take me into 2025, which is quite nice, actually, just for psychological thrillers. I used to write just straightforward crime, but now it's mostly psychological thrillers, but they're psychological thrillers with a very big crime element. I tend to have dead bodies in all my books. I don't think I've ever written a book that didn't kill somebody somewhere. So
no, there's definitely lots of dead bodies in your book. I'm just looking for the one I read most recently, because that wasn't a psychological thriller.
Oh, which one was that then?
The one I read of yours most recently, and I can't see what I've done with it. It was one of your Garda West ones.
Oh yeah, I like Mike West. He's just a dreamboat, isn't he? I mean, he's just perfect. I did enjoy writing that series, but there are 6 in that series. But I also write or I've written a Hudson and Connolly series about a serial killing nurse, which is why I write under a pen name. Because I was still working as a nurse at the time. I thought it would be a good idea not to use my real name, considering I had a serial killing nurse in my book. So I chose Keogh, that's how you pronounce it. If I had realized that people would find it so hard to pronounce, I would have used something else. It's my mother's maiden name, Keogh. So I do get various pronunciations of it, which is sometimes quite amusing. A lot of Americans call it Kyoff, things like that. So yeah, it's okay. I'll answer to anything, really. I come from a family of 9. You have no choice.
Pardon?
I come from a family of 9. You had to answer to anything at all. My mother used to just throw out a name, and you just hoped it was you she meant.
That's fair enough. Why did the choice to move to psychological thrillers then? Because that police procedural was brilliant.
Oh, thank you. Do you know something? When I got my first publishing contract, I had just written I'd started to write a book about twins, and I submitted I think it was the 4th book in my Garda West series. I submitted to Booktour, and they got back to me. They actually emailed me to ask me, could they ring me? Now, you get so excited when someone wants to ring you. So, I mean, I've been trying for so long to get a publishing contract, to get an agent, to get anybody interested. So when they said, could they ring me? I said, yes, of course you can ring me. Yes, ring me. So they said they loved the Garda West series, but they weren't keen on publishing a series that had already been published, even self-published. I mentioned that I'd started this book about twins, and they asked to see it, and it was a psychological thriller. I didn't specifically set out to write a psychological thriller. I set out to write a story about twins, and it happened to fit that genre. So when they took that then, and they asked me to write a second psychological thriller, when I switched then to Bloodhound Books, I was still writing psychological thrillers, and I asked somebody at the time if I could switch back to writing crime, and you know what they said? No, because psychological thrillers sell better. And that is the bottom line. There seems to be an endless appetite for psychological thrillers, whereas the crime series market is pretty jammed, and there's so many brilliant crime writers out there that it's very hard to stand out in that crowd. It's hard to stand out in the psychological thriller crowd too, having said that, but there is an endless appetite for psychological thrillers. So I will keep writing as long as I keep enjoying writing. I would like to write more in the Garda West series. I'd like to see Mike actually getting married. Plus my other series, I've only got 4 books in my Hudson Connolly series. I'd like to write more on that as well. But There's only so much time. I write 3 to 4 books a year as it is. I don't think I could possibly write any more.
But 3 to 4 books a year is quite a lot.
It's quite a lot. I write a book about every 3 months, which it is a lot, but I don't do anything else. I don't have a life. I don't have children. And that is a big plus. I have huge admiration for any writer who manages to balance looking after a family, not just a husband, he's bad enough, but children as well. And I have friends, Jenny O'Brien, for instance, has 3 kids, and she works full time, and she manages to write. I just write. So it's not, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's certainly easier. My time is my own, apart from cooking dinner in the evening and feeding the cat when he comes up meowing at me. I can write from 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock in the evening. I don't, but I could. And there are some times when I'm, pushed for editing or trying to meet my deadline, which I don't often do. I do work long hours, and I tend to write near enough every day. So, yeah, it's surprising. You could get it done if you really want to.
We've got hellos, and I'm just going to go to them because you've mentioned one of them already. We've got hellos from Sam and Sarah and Jenny.
Hey, hello everybody.
So not only is Jenny busy, like working, looking after the kids and writing, she's also watching the chat.
Yeah. And she's painting furniture at the moment as well. She sent me pictures of furniture she painted. That woman is unstoppable. I don't know how she does it.
No.
She exhausts me just listening to what she does.
And much like you, she writes a cracking book.
She does, writes brilliant books, yeah.
I'm a big fan of both of you.
Yeah, really good. Thank you.
Donna says hello as well. Remind us about the twin book. I'm sure I read that. I think I read that and gave it like 5 stars. It was amazing.
Yeah, Secrets Between Us. Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed writing that. My editor at that time was pretty hard. It was my first book, and I really wanted my first published book, and I really wanted it to do well, so it did okay. And the second one, The Housekeeper, that did okay as well. That was the only 2 books I had with that publisher. Then I switched to Bloodhound. So I enjoyed working with Bloodhound, actually. I was with them for 2 or 3 years. Yeah, so I did a lot of books with them. But now I'm with Boldwood, and they're great too. They have great summer parties.
Yeah, you see the pictures of them, aren't they?
Yeah. It's one coming up in May. Yeah.
Long way to travel though.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I get the coach, the air coach, not the air coach. What you call that coach to the airport from down the road. So it leaves at 8 o'clock in the morning. I get into London about 12 or half 12, and then I just get to Victoria coach station. Then I get into Victoria train station. Then I get one tube to Putney Bridge, and I'm there. Nice. It was quite funny because last year when I did it, I was because I don't go to London very often. I'm very nervous about going the tubes, so I didn't Google, as we all do. So I knew you could use your credit card to tap into the trains, but I was so terrified about getting stuck or gobbling my card or something going wrong that, God, I'm so stupid. I went and I found a female member of staff, and I said to her, "Excuse me, I wonder, could you help me?" So I just wanted to know I was doing it properly before I made a mess of it. She was really nice. Yeah, you just go and you just tap your card against it and it'll all work fine. So I did, and it was grand. But I felt like a right country bumpkin.
Nice. I normally just buy a tube ticket.
Yeah, well, that would be probably easier, but I was afraid. I was afraid to get in the queue. I am very nervous traveling on my own. And yes, it's just something when you don't know what you're doing. And then you see so many horror stories with people getting stuck or forgetting something or doing something stupid. So I didn't want to do that.
So what have you got coming up? You write 3 or 4 books a year. What's coming up with Boldwood this year?
I have a book coming out next month called The Mistress, about a lady who is, she's literally breaking up. She's ending one relationship, and she finds a photograph of an old boyfriend, and she remembers him as being a man who said that he really loved her, and she decided, well, yeah, he was nice. I'm going to find him. So she does. She goes and she finds this guy, and she decides she wants to get him back. The fact that he's married with a child is irrelevant. So it was quite fun to write, actually. But the funny thing is I was actually looking for photographs when the nurse came out late last year. The marketing department asked me for photographs of myself as a nurse. So I was looking through old photographs to find one of me as a nurse, which I did, obviously. But you know, when you go through old photographs, I found loads of old photographs when I was a student nurse and going on holidays. And then I found one of an old boyfriend. And I was sitting there thinking of this guy. He was a very handsome guy, actually. He was really nice. But I was thinking about him. And then on and off during the day, I was wondering what happened to him, where he was. And that gave me the idea for the mistress. So it's thanks to him. So he'll never know that, though.
There you go. Nice story, though.
Yeah, I can make an idea for a story. And then after that, in August, I think I have one coming out. It's probably going to be called The Mother. All my books are, as you can tell, they're a theme with Boldwood. They've all got women on the covers, and it's been the lodger, the widow, the mistress, and hopefully they're going to choose the mother. So that would be quite nice.
So do they choose the titles, not you?
The mother was my idea, but sometimes I give an idea and they don't like it for a variety of marketing reasons. It doesn't go with what they plan for me. So I try not get too worried about titles. Sometimes as my last book, I just called the next book because I didn't know what it was going to be called. So that ended up being The Housekeeper, which is the title I wasn't wild about because there was a lot of people saying, oh, she's not a housekeeper. But as a housekeeper. So I try not to get too caught up in things and there's no point in arguing about. I mean, they have a really good marketing department. They do a lot of research into what works and what doesn't work. So unless I absolutely hate it, I try and go with it. So, there's nothing I've really hated so far. I wasn't wild about the cover for The Librarian, but it's okay. But they do listen to you in Boldwood. Whereas my first publisher, if you didn't like the cover, you didn't like the title, it was tough. You had no say whatsoever. Bloodhound were very good. Bloodhound really listened to you about covers and titles. So it does depend on the publisher. So Boldwood do listen, but they also do a lot of marketing. So if they really like it, I don't mind here or there. So I go with it. Okay. So I'm assuming when The Mother comes out, it'll be a woman on the cover. So maybe with the baby. I try not write books with babies in them because I don't have any children, and it's always a minefield because I don't have any experience with children. I have to keep asking questions about what happens, where, when, who does what, where, when. Because I had one in my first book, Secrets Between Us. Is it Secrets Between Us? No, The Housewife. I have a 2-year-old, and I did get criticism from people saying that 2-year-olds didn't do what I had her doing. But my 2-year-olds are obviously geniuses.
You don't know, and if you don't have children as well, do you not think that sometimes, like, you don't know the right responses either? Because I always think that, like, all babies look a little bit like a gremlin.
Yeah.
You can't tell anyone that when they show them.
I try to ask I have a niece who has small children, but her kids are really clever, even though they're only how old are they? 2 and a baby. 2 and a baby, but her 2-year-old is a really clever child. So she does things that other 2-year-olds don't do. So I think it's very hard to generalize as well. So, but I don't know. I don't know anything about babies or what they do, or when they do, or things like breastfeeding and stuff like that. I have no idea. But Jenny is great because Jenny knows all these things. So she answers me questions sometimes. And Judith Baker and Anita Waller, they have grandchildren. So I do tap into that source of information as well. The writing community is very generous with information. And if you have, friends like Jenny and Anita and Kerry Beavis is another one, they're great for tapping in for information like that, as well as being a support network. They are a fount of information. which is great.
So Donna's saying that Boldwood seem to favour simple titles, and you were saying that they've all got a theme, but I know you write your books as standalones.
Yeah.
Is there a wider kind of Valerie verse that they all fit together in?
Well, I think it's the theme is all, when you look at my books with Boldwood, you can kind of recognize them as being mine. That's the idea anyway, because they've all got women, they've all got simple titles. So it should be, it's kind of that kind of a theme, is that they're supposed to be recognizable as being mine. I don't know if they are or not. I just think they look nice. I think the Mistress is a lovely cover. The colors on it are nice. And the Trophy Wife, I think it's got a gorgeous cover. I did actually ask them if they could make her bum slightly smaller in the Trophy Wife, but they just laughed at me. So sometimes they just think I'm being funny, but I actually was being serious. I asked them if they could make her more Nicole Kidman rather than Kim Kardashian. That was what I asked. So they just laughed. So it's fine. I think from a writer's point of view, I try not to get too worried about covers and titles, because that's what my publisher is for. They are the ones who do all the research into what works. So I think you have to trust them as well. So and Boldwood are very good at that. So I do.
Do you ever have any like characters that kind of meet up in other ones though? Do you ever kind of finish one and one of the characters will sneak into another story?
No, I haven't. It's something I have thought about doing, but I haven't actually done. I think I did it in my Hudson Connolly series. I brought in a character from from my Irish series, just briefly. But no, I haven't. They're all standalone individuals, mainly because a lot of them die, so it's very hard to bring them on. Or they're all twisted in their own ways, so it's very hard to kind of twist them into another character. But yeah. And there's some of them.
Oh, we've got frozen Valerie.
I'm here. Am I moving? Yeah, that's okay. So yeah, but no, I haven't. Not yet, anyway. But never say never.
Donna's asked what happens if you want to write about a man.
I have written about a man. The Trophy Wife. That's my only book from male point of view. I actually quite enjoyed writing that. You can write. Basically, I can write whatever I like, really, within reason. The Trophy Wife. Sorry?
Does it still have a woman on the cover though?
It does. It has the Trophy Wife on the cover, but it's actually written about, it's from male point of view, Jake. It's about Jake's life. That was a strange story, because I was actually waiting for Robert at Charing Cross in London. He'd been to a meeting and I went there for the day just for shopping and stuff. And we'd arranged to meet outside Charing Cross. There's a cafe there. And I was sitting there at this cafe drinking coffee, and a man walked past. And as you do, you start thinking about, where's he going? What's he doing? And by the time I got home that day, I'd come up with the end of that story. So then I had to backfill the story. So that's why it started off from a man point of view, because it was that man that triggered that idea for the story. So, but it's the only one I've written from a male point of view. I enjoyed it though.
Kind of interesting to hear where you get your story ideas from.
They come from very strange places, you know. Sometimes it's something I see. I mean, I was looking out my window one day a couple of years ago, and they were working on an old wall opposite. It's a listed wall, and there was stonemasons working, and they were sanding stone, but they weren't wearing masks. So I was wondering about silicosis, which is one of these diseases you get from stone dust. So I started looking up that, as you do, and I ended up writing a whole story based on that idea. It ended up being the couple in the photograph. And that was the background to that story, was somebody who died from silicosis. So sometimes it's, rather than an idea, when I wrote The Housekeeper, I wanted to write a book about a haunted house. So that's where that came from. And my next book, after The Mother, I want to write a book on a cruise ship. But I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen, apart from the fact that it's going to be on a cruise ship. because I was in New Zealand on a cruise in November. So, and while I was on the cruise, I thought about maybe someday writing a story on a cruise ship. So I went to the trouble of actually asking if I could speak to the security officer. So I ended up speaking to the security officer on the cruise ship, and he was really, really nice. So he gave me lots of information. He gave me his email address. So if I ever have any questions, I can ask him. So it's that good. It would be lovely if I could, on the basis of that, it would be lovely if I could actually put that whole cruise down as a tax thing. But I don't think so.
I was just about to ask you if you'd been on a cruise as research. You might have to go on another one now.
Yes, it would be nice. I should be able to put some of it down as, for research. I should be able to. But I have a strange feeling that the tax company, tax department, whatever that is, would say, gets lost, mate. So, but I did. It was a very nice cruise, and he was very helpful. But but there's a lot of cameras on cruise ships, so I'm not too sure how I'm going to kill anybody off. I'll find a way.
Make it a bit more historical, so there's a cruise, but there's not as much camera action.
Yeah. Cameras are the death of us poor crime writers and psychological thrillers, because it's something you have to keep thinking about. Is on the streets, especially in London, for instance, there's cameras everywhere. So you have to really be careful when you're writing a scene saying someone's done something. Is there a camera behind them? Saying, yeah, you couldn't do that because there's a camera up there. So I have to be very careful.
And you'll always get a reader who knows.
Oh, yeah, you get them all the time. In my Irish series, for instance, I had somebody who criticized me because Mike West came over to the UK to interview a suspect. And they said, that would never happen. But it does happen. And I knew from a personal experience, because my brother was interviewed by Irish. My brother lives in the UK now as well. And he was being interviewed about a crime that happened in Ireland, a historic crime, in fact. And the police came over to the UK to interview him. So I knew it happened from personal experience. But this person who knows it all said it couldn't possibly happen. But yes, it does. Frozen again. Back.
You're back again.
Back again.
You got some useful suggestions here about your cruise ship idea. So Leslie said that you could do author talks on the cruise ship, and then it's working.
I know. I would love to do that, because when I was on the cruise ship, the one in November, there was a few talks, and some of them were just so boring. And I was thinking to myself, I could do a talk, be much more interesting than this. And I found the talks that were on it, they were all trying to sell something. I could just go on and sell myself. So yeah, I think it'd be really nice. But yeah, I don't know. It would be nice.
You got some suggestions for how to do the crime on the cruise ship?
Oh, what are they suggesting? Can I see them? I can see these, can't I?
You need someone tech savvy to be able to disable the CCTV system. I think that's Leslie. And Sarah said you could use something the person's allergic to in their food or drink to do them off in a subtle way that get past cameras.
Yeah, but actually one person. Yeah, nuts.
And someone suggested you could take Jenny with you on the cruise.
She'd like that. I have met Jenny. I have been over to Guernsey to meet her, so twice actually.
And it wasn't Jenny that suggested it either.
No, it was. Oh no, I'm surprised it wasn't. Isn't there an author cruise to New York? There is actually. I've been on it. I've been on that literary cruise from New York, Southampton. It's really nice. Yeah, I wouldn't mind going on that. Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to get onto these things, though.
Are you not a bit wary as a nurse about going on a cruise ship, because they seem to be kind of floating incubators? Well, they were in COVID times.
They were in COVID times, and in fact, the cruise I was on, there was actually norovirus on it. In the end, the last couple of days, they were saying that people they started taking precautions, because it was a 14-day cruise, and the last 3 days, they took things like salt cellars away from the tables, And if you wanted salt, they had to push it on your dinner for you. So the things that were multi-use, they did away with. So, but we were careful. We tend to keep. I tended to keep my hands away from the stair rails, things like that. It's just being sensible. But I think a lot of the big problems on cruise ships is the buffets. And we didn't go to the buffets. I hate buffets anyway. So I hate having to go and get my own food. It just may as well be at home. May as well be at home for that. No, so that's what I know. Buffet. And I think that's the safest way to go if you're on a cruise ship. Avoid the buffets. I like to be sitting down and serve my food.
You definitely need to write your cruise ship book, though.
Yeah, I think I would really like that. But I have to come up with an idea for what to do. It's very hard to throw somebody overboard because they have, the security guy was telling me, they have cameras, CCTV cameras around the edges of the ship. So if anybody falls over, they can see them. They're not monitored all the time, though. So that's a good thing. So I could throw somebody over and they could look later.
Yeah, you'd have to work out when they were monitored.
Yeah. Yeah, they can look back on them, you see, if somebody is reported missing. He was telling me a story about somebody who was reported missing. It was very sad, actually, this story, because it was an older woman, and she'd gone on this cruise with a male friend, not a partner, a male friend. And sometime into the cruise, she disappeared. And the guy, they were in separate cabins, and the guy had been calling for her, and he couldn't find her. And he eventually went to security, said, my friend is missing. And they looked back then on the cameras and discovered that she had actually jumped overboard. But he didn't know anything about it. She'd actually gone on the cruise to end her own life. And she'd never told this friend. I mean, some friend. Isn't that a terrible thing to do to the poor man? Anyway, yeah, maybe she didn't like him that much after all.
I mean, she just wanted someone with her so that someone would notice she'd gone.
I suppose, yeah, but not a very nice thing to do to a friend, is it? If Jenny comes with me, that's what'll happen.
Jenny will throw you overboard.
Jenny throw me overboard. We throw somebody overboard.
Apparently, Will Dean's last book had all the passengers disappear overnight on the cruise ship. There have been quite a few cruise ship books recently. I think I've got one on the side of my thing to read about a cruise ship. This one.
Ooh.
Which looks
quite I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. I'll have to read that. I'll have to read these. Yeah, the Will Dean one. I'll have to read that as well. And Jenny gave me a name of another one whose name I can't remember actually. So I'll have to read all these, see if I can get an idea.
Yeah.
But sometimes I try not to worry about it. So far, I've never had to worry about an idea. Something's always come to me. So I have to finish editing on the Mother first before I start writing something else. But it's due in on the 1st of June, so I'll have to start writing it soon.
Have you not even started writing it?
No. I can't because I'm finished. I'm still editing. Well, I could have done, but I'm still editing the Mother. It just takes me a lot longer than I thought it would. Sometimes because I'm an absolute pantser. I don't plan anything. I usually start writing with the vaguest of ideas. And I tend to get my first draft done really quickly. The problem with that is that sometimes the story comes to often changed from the beginning. Then I have to go back and make the characters in the beginning match the characters at the end. So I do make life very difficult for myself. And I keep thinking that planning must be a lot easier. I just can't write that way. There are people who plan. I have a friend, Vicky Pattis, in fact. She sits down for about 2 weeks and does a summary of each chapter before she starts writing.
Wow.
I'd cry if I had to do that. So I just start writing, but different ways work for different people. I have tried planning, but I get bored after writing chapter 1 and just kind of think, what happens? So I just write. And although it can the second structural edit, trying to get everything working together. So far, I've been touch wood. Ooh, sorry. so far it has worked out for me. So
Your 1st of June deadline is Sarah Blackburn's birthday.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll both make. Well, you'll make that. Hopefully, I will too. So far, I've never made a deadline yet. My editor Emily is really sweet, and I usually kind of email her and say, "I'm almost done. Can I have another week or so?" She says, "How many more weeks do you need?" So it can be 2 or 3, or sometimes 4. Yeah, but yeah, it's fine. Boldred they're very easy to work with, which is great.
Which is what you want, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I write because I enjoy writing. It is my career, though. I am a full-time writer, so it's how I make my living. It's how I pay to go on cruises. So I do need to do what I'm told, basically. But they are very nice to deal with, and that makes life so much easier.
Yeah, I can imagine. Sarah is just a delightful person. She's very supportive of all authors. Also, the only person in the world, as it's her birthday, we'll mention this. Only person in the world I've ever met. Well, it's her birthday on the 1st of June. She's the only person in the world I've ever met who's from the same place as me.
Okay. Well done. Yeah, it's nice.
The only other person. Donna wants to know what festivals and events you'll be at this year.
So far, the only ones I'm definitely going to are Crime Fest and Harrogate. Crime Fest is a great one for writers like me because you're guaranteed to get on a panel if you pay for a full ticket. So basically, I'm paying to go on a panel, basically. Harrogate, I like to go for because it's a social event. You don't get on panels in Harrogate. It's a real closed shop type deal. But I met you there last year. Oh, no, the year before last, wasn't it? I didn't go last year. So they're the only two I'm definitely going to. I might get to Leeds if you're having your UK CBC one in June. It just depends on
June.
It just depends on holidays and trains and things like that.
We need to work out an Irish panel at some point, don't we? And invite a bunch of you.
You should. Me and Jenny, we do it. There's loads of us, I'm sure, anyway.
And it's got an airport, Leeds, so Jenny could fly in.
Yes. Yes, she could. No excuses accepted. She was talking about coming to Crime Fest, but I don't think that's going to work for her because, she's got 3 kids, 1 in university. Yeah, 1 in university and 2 working. But yeah, it is harder. And she's also working. So yeah, it's easier when you're not. But the thing is, I say to people it's easier when you're not working, but I keep forgetting that I'm actually working. I have deadlines I have to meet and editing that has to be done. So I do actually work. I kind of forget to count my work as a job, really, which in fact I do work.
I think if you enjoy what you do as a job, you don't always think of it as work.
That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, mostly I really enjoy. Sometimes the editing can be an absolute pain when it's just not working. And sometimes I can spend an hour trying to get a paragraph to work. And I have done that before, spending an hour, writing sentence, deleting. And I have ended up just deleting the whole paragraph because I just can't get it to work. And, sometimes then you think, well, it works without it. So why was I fussing? And if readers knew how long we spent trying to get a sentence to sound right, because before I hand my book back to my editor after doing a structural edit, I do an audio edit, which is what I'm doing at the moment. So I have my computer talking to me and she reads it. And as she reads, I'm correcting every sentence to make sure it actually sounds right even. And then I change sentences around and just so that the words flow a bit better. So yeah, that's somebody gave me that hint years ago and I found it absolutely invaluable. It's great for finding repeated words or missed words, because no matter how carefully you read, you just don't see missed words, you just read over them. And repeated words as well. So if you're listening to it while you're reading, they are more obvious. So but it's a slow job.
You've got a few people going to Harrogate who will see you there. So Sarah is, I'll be at Harrogate for at least one day, so I'll see you there. We only live like an hour away from Harrogate.
Yeah,
so
it's very handy for you. I have to get two
No,
or three trains.
Donna has got a really excellent plan of writing down all the book festivals in her work diary.
That's very clever. Yeah.
And she'll be off.
Yes.
I wish I could do that. I don't really have the kind of job where you can take time off.
Well, I do kind of, except that sometimes I take time off and then I realize, bugger, I have to finish a book or something. It's like because I was away for 4 weeks in November, because we went on a cruise around New Zealand, then to Australia. And 4 weeks, quite a long time when you're supposed to be editing in the middle of that. So I did kind of think I might do some work when I was away, but I did some on the 10 years. So 4 weeks. It was great. 4 weeks of somebody else cooking for you. It was fantastic. It really was nice.
Yeah, just so good.
We went on a train from Sydney to Perth. It's the Indian Pacific Railroad. It was absolutely hilarious. You sleep on the train for 2 nights. The first night, I reckon nobody slept, because the actual berths were very comfortable. There were mattress and pillow, and they were really comfy. But I swear to God, you were doing that the whole night. It was like being in a cocktail shaker. Your head was constantly banging off the back, and you were shaking to and fro. So you were like that the whole way. So hardly anybody slept, and we were asking the next day, how come it was so rough? And they said that the track is really worn between Sydney and Adelaide. The track is very worn. Between Adelaide and Perth, it was not quite so bumpy. But the first night, I know exactly how the ingredients in a cocktail shaker feel, because it was like that. It was really good. But it was a lovely trip. Really nice. Got chatting to a lot of nice people. Who's this confessing they haven't read any of my books?
That's Leslie Lloyd.
My goodness. No, because I only come up on Facebook. He was like, well, I hope you tried some.
It's Leslie Lloyd. But she likes listening to interviews. I've always wanted to go on one of those trains where you sleep on them, but
they're great.
I always travel with my affectionately known as giant husband, and I don't know that he'd fit on them.
He certainly wouldn't fit on these, because they were quite narrow. But we went on the
and they're not always like long enough either.
Oh yeah, well these were actually long enough, but they weren't. They were quite narrow. Well, we went on the Maharaja Express in India a couple of years ago, and that was lovely. Then you got proper beds. They were really nice. That was 5 nights on the train then. It was lovely.
That sounds better.
Yeah, it was really nice. You got to see lovely parts of India. That was really nice. I like traveling.
Donna says she'll have a word with Leslie. I like traveling. You just have to sort of, if you travel with someone who's very tall, you have to kind of...
Yeah. My husband's not very tall. My husband's only about 5'10", so that's grand. He'll fit in anything. So the only problem we have when we're traveling is having to get some mind our cat, and we're very lucky. We have really good neighbors who mind our cat when we're away. He eventually comes back from his holidays next door.
Would you ever? So you've got really good author writing friends, especially Jenny. So we've talked about Jenny, and she's watching. Would you ever sort of swap your characters over? Because there are authors that do that, don't they? Like someone will come.
There are, yeah. I don't know, actually. Yeah, that's a good idea. I haven't even thought. Some of these things I haven't thought about before. I hadn't thought about that, but we could do. I couldn't write with somebody else, so I know some writers actually, collaborate on a book. I couldn't do that. One put this way, I don't think anyone would want to collaborate with me, because I'm so disorganized that nobody could cope with my disorganizational skills. But actually using character from another book, that'd be quite nice.
You're probably more organized than you think.
No, I don't think so.
If I would say that, like, I think I stress people out at work because I just basically chaos gremlin my way through life, and things happen eventually.
Yeah, that's okay.
But there's like some kind of chaos at sort of exists before then.
Yeah.
But it all comes good in the end, but then everybody else is really organised and they're like, I can't cope with you. Like,
I think being a pantser like I am is totally disorganized way of writing. But so far it has always come out at the end for me. So I suppose I can't really complain too much. I used to be very untidy, but my husband is very tidy. So I do try to compromise. But this office where I am, it's a spare bedroom. Now, I wouldn't embarrass myself by showing you around the rest of the room. The bit behind me is specifically designed for this kind of program because it's relatively tidy behind me. So the rest is a mess. So see my monkeys. That way.
yeah.
They're gorgeous. I got them in TK Maxx. I was with Linda Checkley. We were in TK Maxx last year and I saw these for Halloween. They were out for Halloween and I fell in love with them. So I bought them. So, and my skeleton on my.
Yeah, you've got to love the skeleton. I've got quite a collection upstairs of like random skeletons.
They're great, aren't they?
Not real ones, obviously. But...
Not real.
So Leslie Lloyd says we'd both stress her out because she's a control freak. And Donna's asked if you've got anywhere left on your wish list to travel to.
We're going. Well, I've actually quite a few things on my wish list, but one of them we're going to in October. We're going to India, further south this time. Well, actually, we're flying into Calcutta, and then we're doing a river cruise, and then we're flying to Mumbai, and then we're going down to the Ellora Caves, which is a World Heritage Site. That has been on my wish list since I saw photographs with several years ago. So we're going there in October. I do like to travel. So yeah, I've been very lucky. We've traveled quite, because again, we don't have children, so it is easier. So we've got around quite a bit. So yeah.
Do you ever want to set a book in a kind of far-flung place that you've been to?
We were in Cape Town a couple of years ago on holidays, and we went up Table Mountain, and when we were up there was a bomb scare, and we were up there for about 4 hours, just all herded into one spot. Perfect idea for a story. So when I came back, I actually wrote that story. So I have actually a full book written about, and it started with that bomb scare, but I haven't done anything with it. It's a kind of an unusual story because it's kind of a James Bondy type adventure story, which was not exactly fitting in with my other books. So so far nobody's wanted it. So but one of these days I'll publish it because it's literally sitting on my computer. It's finished, completely finished. But I have to get it edited properly, and I think about doing something with it. So somebody told me that Penguin South Africa take unsolicited novels. So I might actually shoot it off to them sometime and see if they'd like it. They might just laugh and say, "Get lost, stupid." But you never know. It's very hard to judge your own books. Jenny and I have a great relationship in that she'll read my books and I'll read hers. And it's having somebody to tell you an honest opinion is absolutely invaluable. And it's very important because you just never know about your own books when you're finished. And Jenny laughs at me because invariably somewhere during the course of writing a book, I will come up with this one is absolute. So, and she says, "You always say that, Valerie." And I do, I always say it, but I always believe it's going to be. And I keep saying to her that one of these days, she's going to tell me, well, actually, this time it is actually. So
they're generally brilliant. I can't think of a book of yours, and I've read quite a few of them that has not been good.
Thank you. That was really nice. Thank you. Because that means a lot. That's really nice.
I didn't book you in for the chat. So I was like, I get to go back and pick up Valerie's books from the book file and read them.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Caroline. Yeah, as long as I can keep, writing decent books and people keep enjoying them, I'll keep doing it. And yeah, it's good.
Donna's suggesting that you should definitely send it off to Penguin South Africa.
Yeah, I must do. I just need to get around to editing it, and so far I haven't really had time to read through it because I wrote it about a God, I must have written it about 6 years ago now. And it's surprising your writing style. I hope my writing style has got better in that 6-7 years. So yeah, I must have, because I think it's actually quite a good story. Again, the main it's a man. It's from a male point of view, most of it, and he's actually quite cute. I like writing about cute men. They're really, this guy is he's really nice, but he's a kind of nice bad boy, not like Mike West, Mike West is a really decent soul. But when I started writing that Irish crime series, I wanted to write a lead male character that didn't have any issues with drink, drugs, or women. I wanted to write just a normal guy who happened to be a police officer. So I think he turned out quite nice. Because I have a brother-in-law who's a guard he's retired now, but he was a guard in Dublin, and he's just a normal guy. He's married to my sister, kids, doesn't have any drink problem, doesn't have any drugs problem. He just is a very good guard. So he gave me some hints and advice on my stories, so it was handy. But I mean, I don't write police procedures as such, so they're not exactly accurate police procedurals. And it's funny because I go back in some of my books now and I think, I can't do that. So yeah, I was editing one of my Hudson and Connolly series, which is the 4 books I've written with the serial killing nurse. I wanted to re-edit, and it was quite funny because I had one of the characters looking in a phone directory for an address. I mean, who has phone directories anymore? So I had to change that.
I think they exist online still.
Yeah, they're online, but she was actually opening a phone directory.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, I know exactly. When I did, in fairness, I did write them about 10 or 12 years ago. So yeah, it's surprising how fast things change. I mean, I'm putting this way: nobody in this book has a mobile phone. Because 13 years ago, people didn't, in general, have mobile phones that much. So the police have, but the general run-of-the-mill people don't. Oh.
Fair enough. What have you read this year that you've really enjoyed?
On my own, of course. I'm joking. Jenny's new series is really good. Alana Mack. She's going to kill me now because I can't remember the name of them. Oh, bloody hell. The Puppet Maker is the first one, and the second one. Sorry, Jenny, I can't remember the your second book. They're both very good, actually. That's a really good series. It's unusual because Alana Mack is in a wheelchair, which as a police officer, which is really good. It's an interesting twist. I'm mostly reading books from friends, so other writers. So Judith Baker's new one is coming out soon, The Perfect Parents. That's really good. She's a lovely writer, Judith. All Anita Waller's books are good. I can't remember the name of the recent one I read. I think that's a problem with reading on a Kindle. You read a book and you think it's brilliant. Can you remember the title? Because you haven't seen the cover, and then you close the Kindle and the cover's gone. So
it's coming up have you ever had to do we make a year-end list, and Sam hates me for it every year whenever it comes up, because you have to make like a top 10 list, and she always stresses about it. She always makes the best list, but she always says it's the most stressful thing in the world.
It's something from a writer's point of view, it's a very stressful time of the year because you keep going on Facebook, and a lot of Facebook groups have a lot of people put their top 10 or 20 books. And as a writer, I go through bloody every one to see if anyone's put my name on. And it hasn't happened yet. So it is a real kind of eye-opener when nobody loves you that time of the year. You think, oh, please, somebody put my name down.
It will happen, though.
Yeah, it will happen. I know. It's not it's a funny thing that time of the year is you just want to be on one of these lists. So
they're very hard to do.
They are very hard to do, and it's very hard to remember. I mean, I'm sure I've read so many good books this year, but you just forget them again. When you go on to the next book, it's like when people ask me about the books I've written. I write one, and then once I've edited it and it's gone, I don't read it again So I forget what the story is about. So I go on to the next one and the next one and the next one. So, and someone says to me, what was that book about? I say, I don't remember. So, unless I actually look at it.
I don't know who I was talking about. Mike Craven is definitely one who says that he writes the book so far in advance that when you're interviewing him about it, he's often like 2 more ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then he's been interviewed about the one he wrote like years before.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes a lot of authors have to go back, and we presume that you just remember everything.
No, don't. It's terrible. I remember some books I remember more than others. I mean, one of my favorite books, in fact, The Trophy Wife was one of my favorite books. I remember that story pretty well. And the 3 women I remember pretty well, and the nurse, and the housekeeper, because I've just written it. So, and the mistress, because I've just written it. But the lodger, I would get confused with which character is which, and the same with the widow. And sometimes I get confused as to the sites, because I usually have 1 or 2 different storylines within the book. And sometimes I forget which storyline is in which book. So yeah, you do have to really remember. But I mean, I think it's probably because we write so fast. Well, I write so fast as well in so many books. But I say I don't do anything else apart from going on holidays.
I'm coming back to the names in a minute. What Leslie's just said, as a nobody blogger, you don't think it matters to authors whether they make the list. I think it really does matter, Leslie, and it's the reason why I keep making everyone in our group redo them at the end of the year. I think it really helps.
It does.
And I know I've got a list of ones from like the ones when we made the video of our top 10s. I was like putting little asterisks by other people's ones. You know, like, right. Oh, I have to look those up because that sounds really like something I want to read.
I think it's most authors would love to be on these lists, and even the ones who say, I don't care about these lists, they would love to see their name on them, and I think
it really matters, and everybody should do it because it's important.
It matters from a marketing point of view, but it's also kind of, you just feel it here, oh, somebody loves my, and people like your books because you do get nice comments and nice reviews, but seeing it on someone's list, it's just that added bit of importance, and it does make you feel good. So yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky. I do get some great feedback. I get some nice emails from people saying they like my books, and that, because sometimes, when the writing isn't going well, or when you get a bad review, and as everybody knows, it's the bad reviews that really stick in your head. So seeing your name on a list, or getting an email from a reader to say that she loves your book, that is so wonderful, and it makes me write again. It makes me write more, because I think, well, I can't be that bad, so I'll just keep writing. So yeah, it is really nice. It's really important. So.
Well, I haven't got to my top 10 year of the list recently, but if you scroll back through the group, you'll see a 5-star review for one of your books from me.
Thank you. Thank you, Caroline.
As I was reading it to prepare. So I don't think I give your books anything less than that. They're always good. The names, do you find, because you've got so many books, like so prolific, do you find it's really hard to keep coming up with names?
For my characters?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I am really bad with names. I mean, I have actually called 3 different characters David in a book. And my editor says, you've got 3 different characters all called David. Yeah, because, you're just writing, because I don't plan. I know people who actually will sit down, and before they start writing at all, they will do a biography for each of their characters. Okay. I just write, and as I want to bring a character in, he comes into my head, and I put down the first name that pops into my head. So it depends on what it is. But this time I have a Valerie Keogh supporters group, and I am using their names. The problem is that there's 2 Kates in it, and there's 2 Lyns in it. There's a Kate Lynn and there's a Lynn Parrott. So my editor says, too many Lyns in this. So there's always an issue, because they don't like when names begin with the same letter. So you can't have Murphy and Morris and some other M names. They like different names. And the same with first names. You're not supposed to have the same initials or names that sound the same. So it is difficult when you're trying to come up with other names. And I also try to get names that aren't too difficult to pronounce, because I have to think of my narrator as well. I usually have Rose Robinson, and she's a lovely narrator. But I think that is something that's important to think about as well. It's are they going to be able to pronounce the names? And in fact, in my Irish series, I used the name Tig in one of the books. I can't remember which one actually. Now, to me, Tig is an easy name to pronounce. It's spelled Tadgh, and I had reviewers complaining that they couldn't pronounce it. Sorry, I just never thought that should be an issue. It's a bit like my surname Keogh. I never thought that people would find it difficult to pronounce, but they don't where I come from. The name like Tig in Ireland is a common enough name, and we know how to pronounce it. So, but it's a bit like British names. I find Gloucestershire, that one, very difficult to say because it's an English name that's stupidly spelt. And as for Magdalen, I was always calling it Magdalen College, and it's Magdalen College, is it? Well, why is it pronounced Magdalen College when it's spelled Magdalen? So there's always things like that. So yeah, names are a big problem. I do try to be more careful now and not use the same name all the time.
Leslie's saying Jenny did the same and used lots of her readers groups names, which was a real honour, because Leslie's in one of Jenny's other series, the Gabby Darren book.
Oh yeah, the Gabby Darren's book's great.
Yeah, I was as well, which is really nice. I think I make
that's right. Yeah, I'd forgotten that. Yeah,
like a man-eating person.
That was a great series, actually, the Gabby Darren one. I love that.
I love that series as well.
Yeah. And I love the way she brought Gabby Darren and Rusty into the next series. I think is lovely.
Have not started the next series yet, and I really want.
Puppet Maker is brilliant, and Puppet Maker and Roses for the Dead. That's her too. I remembered. They're very good.
What you need to do is book Jenny back in. She might be watching, so she needs to come back for an author chat, because it's how I bump things up my reading pile if you're in for a chat, because
her next one is out at the end of the year. It's like Cage of Bones, her next one. Yeah, I do remember.
There you go, Jenny, if you're listening.
Someone wants me to do a punchline boxing. Like that?
I don't know who that is. Yeah,
I don't know what that means. Can you do punchline boxing?
You've got 2 minutes left. Show off some of your books and remind people what they're going to go away. If they're Leslie, who's not read one of your books, what would you like her to go away and buy? There you go.
I mean, I think on the biography I put on the group page. It gives a list of all my books, except it doesn't give my crime series because there wasn't enough room, basically. That's my most recent one, The Housekeeper. The Mistress isn't out until next month. The Nurse, where is it gone? Oh, The Nurse made it to number 1. Oh, my first ever number 1 book on Amazon. So that made it to number 1.
Wow.
So I was really pleased with that. Yeah, that was quite exciting. It really is. I tell you, you think it doesn't matter, and then you get to number 1, you realize, bloody hell, it does. Believe me, it was very exciting.
I can imagine.
Yeah, well, it's very exciting.
Celebrate being number 1.
It was number 1 for nearly 3 weeks. It was great. So to get into the top 100 is brilliant. To get into the top 50 is fantastic. To get into the top 20 then. But the thing is, when you get into the top 100, you want to be in the top 50. Then when you get in the top 50, you're really excited. And then you want to be in the top 20. And then you want to be in the top 10. So yeah, but to get to number 1 was brilliant. The Housekeeper had the highest it got was 16, which is still very good. So
yeah, that's still good. Awesome.
There is a book on NetGalley. The Mistress is on NetGalley at the moment, so that's a good place to get that if you want to read it. It's getting, in fact, I don't often go on NetGalley. It can be quite scary. So I did have a quick glance last week, and it's getting really good reviews so far, which is great. So yeah. So I know I'm going to give 2 giveaways, so I'll pick out to tomorrow. I don't know. I can't. We were laughing so much, Caroline. I can't remember if any question made us both laugh. I'll just pick out two. I'll pick out two at random.
We did. We'll pick out two though. I think we've just shuffled all the way through, haven't we? But thank you so much for. Thanks so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, Caroline. It's been great as usual. I would see you in Harrogate anyway, if I don't see you before. Yeah, it'll be brilliant. Look forward to it. Thanks everybody for